So, episode 6 of Horrors of the Continuum, Trinity Continuum core focused season of the show. I figured as we've now crested 52 episodes, one episode per week of the year, even though I've taken a couple of breaks here and there and obviously stream bi-weekly, but still, I would redo my intro and actually have a standardized disclaimer, because I generally go through it off the top of my head, and sometimes that's not the most consistent thing, and on no occasion I've said things that I didn't mean to say. So, this is YouTube as usual. You can probably just skip like the first minute or so to get through my disclaimers. But I do not speak for Onyx Path, nor is this project official material. All views and opinions expressed are my own, and this material will be available to buy on the Storypath Nexus at some point after the season has ended. I am merely a grateful fan with a platform. I am also disabled. I do experience muscle spasms, which can lead to twitching in pretty much any muscle group in my body. But if it affects the muscles of my throat, tongue, etc., I can have a more pronounced stutter than usual, and I can also slur my speech. I apologize if this happens. I cannot remember it happening on this show, but if it does, I will take steps to minimize any potential discomfort it may cause, both for myself and for viewers. I do also struggle with multiple trains of thought, so I will try to finish one before starting another. If I look down, that is because I have chat on a lower monitor. That's it. There's no other reason. But if I see that someone has raised a point or has asked a further question in chat, I will try to acknowledge it, finish my current train of thought, and then loop back around, unless I feel that it adds more to the conversation than I was going to say anyway. So, standard things usually. Standard things as usual. We'll go with a rundown of the Monday meeting notes. There is the link for anyone who needs it. As usual, I will provide these at the end of the show as well. But a swift rundown of the Monday meeting notes. Yesterday, obviously, was Valentine's Day. So, if you celebrated that, I hope it went well. If you didn't celebrate it, I hope it was a great Monday. The Word of Darkness sales continues. Obviously, right now, there's a big push for the Lore of the Traditions Mage 20th Anniversary Kickstarter. It's in its last few days, and I'll just refresh the page before providing the link. With 52 hours to go, it's at $120,587 of $30,000, so it's overfunded somewhat. Nope, that's not the right link. I need to Control-C first before I Control-V again. There we go, that's the right link. And that's a book exploring the history, practices, and politics of each current member of the Council of Nine for M20. Because that is the current Kickstarter, of course, a lot of the Pathcast stuff is focused on M20, and there is at least one actual play on the channel. Apparently, today, Tuesday the 15th, is the 10-year anniversary of Onyx Path's very first Kickstarter campaign for the V20 Companion. Reminder that V20 is not an Onyx Path product. It came out before Onyx Path was even a thing, but the Companion totally was an Onyx Path product, and it was the very first Kickstarter campaign just after Kickstarter went live. And there's a nice little anecdote there from, I assume, Rich T, about how that all came about. So if you're interested in the history of Onyx Path or in the history of V20, read it. It takes like 30 seconds. There's some art from Saints and Monsters, the upcoming Scion book, so that's pretty hype. However, moving on with the 10th with 10 years since things in Onyx Path, the 10th anniversary of Onyx Path does continue. 10% sales on Wraith the 20th and Changeling the Dreamian 20th PDFs. Not Ghost Hunters, because Kickstarter backers haven't received their books yet, but all week, both of those game lines PDFs are 90% off, and the Indie Press Revolution have a 20% sale on physical 20th anniversary World of Darkness books. Snap them up before they get taken away from you. And then next week, after the Lore of the Traditions Kickstarter is finished, last week of the month will be Mage 20 itself. A couple of other things. Discussions are going ahead about panels to be run at both Onyx Path Virtual Con in June, as well as Gen Con. They're asking for what people want panels on. And also, it turns out that this week is very fortunate, because not only do you get myself waxing lyrical about Storypath for now, an hour after this show ends, you get Eddie and Danielle talking about, Eddie Webb and Danielle Lawson, talking about the Storypath system in great detail in their Lunch and Crunch show. The YouTube archive of their first episode is now live, so if you missed it, go ahead and check it out. They know far more about the system than I do. And it's probably a good time. I don't really have time to watch it myself, unfortunately. I'm trying to shove things around in my schedule so I can, but there we go. Today, they're going to be talking about genre conventions, which is kind of what we're talking about here, but continuing on. What's the highlight for the media? The highlight for this week is Mage the podcast talking to the contributors of Lore of the Traditions and reviewing the M20 Quick Start. So if you're interested in the Kickstarter, you've still got, as I say, 52 hours to think about it, but you've got some more information provided there. That's that. What else? Sales I've mentioned. On sale this week, the Word of Darkness Ghost Hunters Jumpstart: The Longest Night. As well as a Trinity Continuum Aeon novella called Dawn. I believe they're both on Wednesday. Yup, they're both on Wednesday on drive-thru. As well as the novella's going to hit Amazon with the Kindle store. You can continue to pre-order Trinity Continuum's Assassins. Now, down to the project status stuff. Reminder that if you want the full project status table, that has now been moved to the end of the month release roundups. So as of the end of January, projects look like that. But the Monday Meeting Notes does provide you an update on projects that have moved within that timeline. So first drafts, Trinity Continuum Aberrant, Hated and Feared. So if you like what I'm talking about here, Trinity Continuum Aberrant is a superhero line from Trinity Continuum set in, I want to say, 2028. I've added material to the Storypath Nexus for Aberrant. It's pretty cool. The game, not my material. My material is strictly mediocre / subpar. But apparently it is an examination of outsiders like the Tarat, which, if I recall correctly, is somewhere along the lines of Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants. The writers do seem excited to be underway, and Eddie can't wait to see what they come up with, so, get hyped for that. Not seeing... Well, we'll get on to that. Final draft for Mage of the Awakening, 2nd edition, Tome of the Pentacle. A new Tasty Bit is in development. A taste for Scion. A Tasty Bit for They Came From. It's a manuscript approval. The Squeaks in the Deep Jumpstart for Pugmire is in editing. So that's pretty hype. That reminder was the rodents and psionic characters and mega dungeons. Art direction, Exalted 3rd edition Exigence and Adversaries of the Righteous, as well as They Came From Cyclops Cave and They Came From Classified. Those Kickstarter assets are prepped, so that's looking pretty exciting. The art is rolling for Trinity Continuum Ether. Some stuff, They Came From Beyond the Grave, Tales of Depravity and Layout, Squeaks in the Deep, Saints and Monsters, and Trinity Continuum Assassins are all in proofing. And then there's a long list of stuff that's at press that I think is mostly the stuff that was at press last fortnight as well. So I think that's all of the good stuff. Obviously, as usual, I will recap that at the end of the show. I'm going to hydrate before we get into the actual show material. That was possibly the swiftest overview of the Monday Meeting Notes I have yet provided. I would pat myself on the back, but such things are egocentric. So, what is this show for those who don't know? I'm Ryan, or Comrade Bubbles. I am a moderator in chat, so please behave. I This show is just me writing community content, showing you that any person can write community content, providing some kind of, hey, Valentine, what a seasonal name. How you doing? Welcome to the channel. Yeah, showing you that anyone can write community content. I'm showing you how I approach it personally. I'm talking with my hands, but I appreciate you can't really see them. So please do feel free to ask questions, as it says over here by my shoulder, about writing community content, about running games, anything like that. Please keep it to Onyx Path if possible. Obviously, this is their channel, but I will draw upon other games to provide examples where I feel that will help. But this show is about writing, about how one approach to writing community content. Obviously, there's loads of different approaches to writing community content. I can only speak for my approach. But this season of the show is focusing on Trinity Continuum. Trinity Continuum is Trinity Continuum Core specifically is a core rulebook, as the name suggests, that is used for all of the Trinity Continuum line, which is a game line of story path powered games that technically take part in the same timeline. The earliest one that I can think of off the top of my head being Adventure, being punching robot Nazis while riding dinosaurs in the 30s, all the way through to, I want to say Aeon, but I might be wrong about that, which is far future stuff. The story path system itself is a skill-based dice pool system. So your character sheet will provide you with a number of dots based on skills and attribute. What Onyx Path game do you think is the most TTRPG newbie friendly? Ooh, that is a question. I would probably say either Scion or Trinity Continuum Core, but it does depend largely on what you want out of a game. So Onyx Path publish a large variety of genres and types of game. So their Chronicles of Darkness game lines are all horror, for example. It's just different flavors of horror. They're reasonably easy to get into for the most part. Promethean, the created off the top of my head, is possibly one of the hardest, so stay away from that. But Vampire the Requiem is probably the most well-known. They also support the They Came From game lines if you want to evoke kind of cinematic horror in a way. So They Came From Beneath the Sea is, like, it's creature features. There we go, that's the word I was looking for. Creature features from the 50s, 60s. And They Came From Beyond the Grave is the more Hammer horror-esque, although that's... I don't know if the book's actually out yet. I think that's coming out soon. That's kind of... Those are the more horror side of things. If you're like using Major Vampire, hey, that's totally fine. Other easy newbie-friendly game lines, definitely Pugmire with its simplified 5th edition rule set. Pugmire is always a good time for relaxed fun. I would caution anyone who's watching this. Mage can be overwhelming, but with enough support can be a lot of fun, I've heard. I am kind of biased. Pugmire is very easy on Stable Earth. And if you don't want to play dogs, which Pugmire allows, Monarchies of Mao is set in the same universe, uses the same rules, but you play as cats. I personally came to Onyx Path through the 1st edition New World of Darkness, so the Mortals Blue Book that is now Chronicles of Darkness. That's really easy because you don't have any superpowers. You are just a mortal in the World of Darkness. Well, sort of. Where was I? Yeah, Scion and TC. Between Scion and Trinity Continuum, I would hazard Scion is easier, personally, because it's a lot. It doesn't use enhancement as much. There's less to remember. I personally feel they're both very similar games, though. So in terms of mechanics, because they use the same rule set, just with slight tweaks. But if I had to rank them, I'd definitely say Mortals or Vampire the Requiem, or like core rulebook Chronicles of Darkness or Vampire the Requiem. Probably tied with Pugmire and Monarchies of Mao. It just depends on what you're looking for. monarchy, Pugmire and monarchies obviously have that connection to 5e that a lot of games will share. A vampire can be exploitative and political, which may not be forever, especially in the current kind of environment. Yes, as I say, all the Chronicles lines are very different flavors of horror. If you're looking into Chronicles of Darkness, so I was like, core book mortals and vampire, Pugmire monarchies, and I would probably say Scion, but Trinity Continuum is, I would just put Scion above TC for personal preference. I learned with Scion. That's my personal preference. By no means is it a bad game. However, if you are new to tabletop role playing, I would advise you to stay away from Exalted until you've got some games under your belt. Exalted 3rd edition particularly is a very crunch heavy system. Onyx Path technically don't own the game line. They write for it. They produce material for it. But it is very dense. We'll put it that way, yes, Valentine. It's very fun if you like anime wuxia style combat and politicking, but it is very dense. I was in a sort of long-term text-based 2nd edition Exalted game, and it was a lot of fun, but there was a lot to remember. Anyway, back to what I was saying. And please feel free to keep these discussions going. The community content thing is just a backdrop for me to talk about stuff, to fill the air with, to discuss things about, and to provide discussion points. Please do keep discussions going in chat. I will answer where I can. Wondering how one would run mages in the Multiverse of Madness if one wanted to take a riff on the Marvel Universe. That's Ryjack 8, that's a tricky one. I mean, you could just use Mage. There's nothing saying you couldn't use either of the Mage games, Awakening or Ascension. With the caveat that, as we're discussing in chat, the magic system in both of those games is very open-ended, and it might not be for everyone. I personally I play with a group that is less comfortable with open-ended systems. They prefer to have they prefer to know what they can and can't do, but that's just personal preference. If you wanted to riff on the MCU, Trinity Continuum is a good place to start. The base game, Trinity Continuum core itself, very much allows you to run kind of modern action style stories. If you wanted more superheroics, Aberrant obviously exists. Aberrant allows for superpowers as well as tech. So Aberrant you could definitely use for that kind of thing. And then Scion, for if you wanted more of a fantasy feel, because Scion is you are the children of the gods in the modern world. Many players run demos at local shops. Someone's looking for easy games to teach people. Well, Valentine, if you're looking for easy games to teach people and you want free resources, I very much wrote a free introductory Scion adventure and a free introductory Chronicles of Darkness adventure that require only the core rulebooks, which is Scion Origin for Scion and Chronicles of Darkness for Chronicles of Darkness. I'm never going to miss a chance to push my own material if I can avoid it. So check those out if you're interested in them. As I say, they're free. They come with pre-gens, so you don't have to deal with any of that. Everything you need is in the rulebook, is in the adventure, apart from stat block, not stat blocks. The name has gone. Powers. There we go. I haven't written out powers because those are in the rulebook and I don't want to copy the text over. Both of those were written with an eye to introducing people to the game, including kind of sidebars for the GM about the purpose of each scene in terms of introducing new mechanics and things like that. And remember, so both those starter adventures could be expanded to full campaigns. They could. Both come with story hooks. Well, the the Chronicles of Darkness one comes with a couple of story hooks, and the Scion one is very much intended as a, hey, this is the world, so you can learn about it in a structured environment, and then build on it from there. I will eventually be writing a follow-up to that. It's just other projects keep taking the place of that. I was going to say, on top of Pugmire and Monarchies of Mal, by the way, if you have players who are into D&D actual plays, Onyx Path do have their own D&D setting called Scarred Lands. There are jump starts available for that as well, and that uses D&D 5e rule set, or the SRD rule set, technically speaking. But there we go. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I'd recommend for new players. Don't particularly think so. Going back to Ryjak's question, though, yes. As I said, Mage, if you want to. If you want to be the instigators, Mage and you could kind of do with that, or 24 years of old World of Darkness experience and develops, so certainly not a new player. That's fair. That's very fair. Trinity Continuum, as I say, focus on action stories. Aberrant is the superhero side of things. And you can easily do multiverse stuff with anything with any story path game. I was trying to think if there's any other Onyx Path game I can think of off the top of my head that you could do an MCU riff with. Not really. I mean, Aberrant's right there. It's a superhero game. It's fully compatible with Trinity Continuum Core because it's a supplement for it. I think those are kind of it, really. Short of just extreme hacking of rules to allow mages to play in other game lines. Because the rest of the Chronicles of Darkness lines are, and 20th anniversary World of Darkness lines are obviously horror rather than action fantasy, let's say. If I keep looking to the right, by the way, that's where all my RPG books are. So I'm looking there for inspiration. I have an idea how to create little Victorian vampire companion social clubs for vampires, but life is just always so busy. Life is just always so busy. You are not wrong. As I was saying to intro the show, however, until another point in Aberrant is print on demand at this time? I will check for you right now. I believe so. I misspelled Aberrant so badly. I know it's on the. I know you can write material for it on the Storypath Nexus. So I would assume that it's in POD. Why is DuckDuckGo like this? Please bear with me while it loads. Yes, it's in print on demand. Standard print on demand is $44.99. PDF is $19.99. And obviously, if you want premium, it goes up. You do save money if you buy the PDF and the hardcover, but if you only want the hardcover, then totally, is what it is. There is also a bundle you can purchase that comes with rulebook, Trinity Continuum Core rulebook, Trinity Continuum Aberrant, the Aberrant Story Guide screen, and a comic for $41.95 if that kind of thing is of interest. And I've used the print on demand function before. It's pretty good. The rulebooks hold up to use. Even the standard is extremely usable. If you're worried about that kind of thing. So yes, as I was saying, Trinity Continuum Core and all the Storypath games, dice-based, pool-based, skill-based dice pool system where your character sheet tells you how many dots you have in attributes and skills. You count how many dots, you combine them, you pretty much every roll is an attribute plus a skill. You count how many dots you have in those two things. You roll that number of 10-sided dice. 8, 9, or 10 is a success. 10s you re-roll, I believe, in Trinity Continuum. I have so many game systems in my head that are very similar that sometimes they bleed through, but I'm pretty sure in Trinity Continuum you re-roll 10s as air quotes explode. You feel that? Yep. I was reading the They Came From Beneath the Sea rules, and I was like, oh gosh, this is almost unaltered story path, but it's changed in very different ways. So in They Came From Beneath the Sea, for example, 10s just count as 2 successes. They don't explode. You don't re-roll them. But in Trinity Continuum and Scion, or TCC and Scion, you re-roll them. They count as a success, and you roll them again. But those are your successes. Actions have difficulties. You buy off the difficulty with your successes. So if it's difficulty 1 and you get 3 successes, you pay 1 success and you have succeeded. Congratulations. Something cool that I have just stacks of RPG books all over the apartment. Not to mention the closet, keep relating systems back to Fate Core. Hey, Fate's a good system. Nothing wrong with that. On top of difficulty, actions can also, I keep saying actions, rolls can also have complications. These are things that cannot take away your success if you buy off the difficulty, but they complicate your life, hence the name. So if it's complication 2, difficulty 1, and you get those 3 successes, you buy off the difficulty and you buy off the complication, you succeed, nothing else happens. If you only have 2 successes, you cannot afford to buy off the complication, so you still succeed at the action. The game cannot take that away from you, but something goes wrong in the course of that. Classic example being, you're climbing a brick wall, it's got glass on the top. The difficulty is easy to get over the wall, but the glass adds a complication. If you can't buy off the complication, you cut yourself and you gain 1 injury condition. All of this, bearing in mind, please, is very reductive surface level. On top of that, there's a mechanic called enhancement. Enhancement functions as automatic successes. As long as you get a single success on your roll, you get however many enhancement your selection of game traits provides. So if you have 2 enhancement from one source and 1 enhancement from another source, as long as you get 1 success, you get an extra 3 successes to your roll, no matter how many total successes you end up with. Beyond the requirement of getting 1 success, enhancement, it functions as a normal success. You use it to pay off the usual things. So that's Trinity Continuum in a nutshell. Very shallow, reductive overview. I've mentioned there are a couple of I'm going to say TC game lines because Trinity Continuum is a horrible phrase to say over and over and over and over again. I may also say TCC for Trinity Continuum Core. I mentioned there were a couple of game lines. There's Adventure. You have to say it like that because there's an exclamation mark at the end. There's Aberrant. There's Aeon. Anima was on Kickstarter recently for Cyberpunk, and that was a cool one because it's 2 games in one. One game you're playing in the Cyberpunk dystopia, and the other game you're playing the MMO that is popular in said Cyberpunk dystopia. This book is Horrors of the Continuum. This is a look at how you can add horror theming to your TCC or TC games if you're using this in line with Aberrant and whatnot. Kind of like you have to pause in the middle of WOD titles. Yes, exactly like that. There isn't, as of time of writing, a horror supplement for TC. So this is it. This is not official, obviously, as I said, but this is hopefully going to be useful guidance, let's say, for horror in your TC games. As you can see, that's all I need to really discuss right now. So as you can see in this document, I will zoom in, please, for people who are on mobile or perhaps not as close to the monitors as I am. Started with the introduction. Any time you play a horror game, Highly recommend using safety tools of whatever kind. This introduction covers a few of them. There are more out there. I'm not going to go through them again. If you want to rewatch my discussion about safety tools, all of these streams go up on my personal YouTube channel. You'll have to search for Comrade Bubbles on YouTube. I don't have a fancy URL. It's alphanumeric. It's just Comrade Bubbles, and it's Behind the Screen Season 7, and Episode 1 was entirely about safety tools, because horror should scare the player. Characters should not make the players themselves terribly uncomfortable or triggered. First thing we looked at was body horror. I'm not going to really go over that again, but unless it becomes relevant. But looked at body horror, a brief overview of body horror, 2 scene mechanics, 2 skill tricks, 2 edges, 2 gifts. For those, again, who are perhaps unaware, scene mechanics, obviously mechanics that used in the background of scene, they apply to every role in all likelihood. Skill tricks in TC core and the TC as a whole. Your characters have little things they can do with their skills that not everyone else can do. These are called skill tricks. So they're just kind of little things to I've just noticed there is an M- between medicine and all up in there, because autocorrect messed up. It's that alt. There we go. It might have even been a hyphen, thinking about it. There we go. I fixed it. There's a hyphen, not an M-. Edges are what other games might call merits or advantages. They're things that your character just has, whether through purchasing, through experience, or through, innately. And gifts are minor supernatural things that talents get. Talents are included in TCC. Talents are... I was going to say superpowered characters, but that's aberrant. Talents have mild superpowers. They're extremely lucky, or they can alter the world around them in minor ways that look like superpowers, but not exactly the same as superhero superpowers. And talents get gifts. They're the kind of like reality bending abilities they get. I will say, if you're interested in any of this and want to find out more, Travis Legg, Plastic Age Plays in the chat, who does a lot of the Twitch coordinating, he ran a series of StoryPath showcase games, one of which was Trinity Continuum Core. I was fortunate enough to take part in that, and we played talents in that. So if you do want to see talents if you want to see Trinity Continuum in action before making, you're listening to me ramble, you're watching this, whatever, and you're like, yeah, that game seems kind of interesting. On the Onyx Path YouTube channel, there's a playlist of the Trinity Continuum Core StoryPath Showcase. We had a blast, and the adventure for that is available to purchase along with our character sheets. We made the characters on stream. We had a session 0 that was streamed, I believe it was. No, wasn't. I don't know if it was streamed, but I'm pretty sure it went up on YouTube. Anyway, all the characters that were used are in the adventure, as well as character backstories for you to use those characters in your own games. If you want to see exactly how talents differ from aberrants, novas, sorry, not aberrants, novas. However, the purpose of today's stream is the third and theoretically final stream looking at cosmic horror. So, brief rundown of cosmic horror for those who may not be so familiar with it. Cosmic horror often deals with themes of cosmic dread, forbidden and dangerous knowledge, non-human influences on humanity, religion and superstition, fate and inevitability, and the risks associated with scientific discoveries. Now, huge disclaimer. The creator of the genre of cosmic horror widely accepts to be Howard Philip Lovecraft. The man was a huge racist. If you read the text and critically engage, well, you didn't even have to critically engage with it. If you read any of his works or look into them, you will uncover extreme racist undertones and negative depictions of mental health. Fortunately, more modern authors are obviously better at dealing with it than he was. But if you do look into it, please be aware that you may encounter themes you yourself feel are harmful to yourself and others. There's a lot of good stuff in there, especially if you do like horror role playing, but there's a lot of really bad stuff. So please engage with it carefully. So as you can see, I've included some guidance about themes that cosmic horror usually deals with. None of this is authoritative. I cannot stress enough this is not official. I'm not a literary critic. My background is in religious and theological studies. I don't have a degree in literature studies, for example. I just read a lot. So you might look at things and be like, hey, my take on that is different, and that's totally fine. This is, again, my thoughts, my opinions about the genres. Two incredibly important things to talk about before I even get onto the gifts, because that's what we're talking about today. Do your research, please, if you're going to be dealing with cosmic horror, because it does deal with themes of mental illness. Do your research. Please do not exaggerate symptoms. Do not make tropes of them. Obviously, they're going to occur because that's what tropes do. That's why they're called tropes. But definitely be aware of the fact that they exist and try to critically engage with them. If you are portraying exaggerated symptoms, like you read something and you just go to the worst possible extreme of it, or you give all the symptoms of a mental disorder to a character, that's harmful. As I say in point 2, pretty much, not pretty much, in almost no case will a person, that's terrible grammar, that's terrible as well. It is very rare for a person suffering from a mental disorder or illness to exhibit all of the symptoms of said disorder or illness. So when dealing with these themes, do not name the illness. You can name symptoms, by all means, name symptoms, because that's more what the character is going to exhibit. But please do also research the symptoms. Don't just don't just be like, hey, I know how the symptom presents based on Western media, so I'm going to present it in this manner. That's not ideal, really. Western media has a very let's say it doesn't portray mental illness very well, and leave it at that. Don't just pick up the DSM-5 and slap all the symptoms onto the character either. Exactly right, Jack 8. Do not do that. And this is why I'm saying do not name mental illnesses. Don't say your character has mental illness X. Just if a character would reasonably have a symptom of a mental illness, allow them to have that symptom. And for the love of just good what's the word I'm looking for? Respect. Just to be respectful. Don't like 1 or 2 symptoms at most if they need a symptom. Good taste. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. 1 or 2 symptoms at most, because that anymore and you're going down the trope route again, and that's harmful. An example of how Western media portrays things. So obviously, a lot of times in Western media, schizophrenia is accompanied by auditory and visual hallucinations. Now, I should state, the sources I read over a decade ago, so I may be misremembering, but I'm reasonably confident that the gist of what I read was that in the West, because the media has told us that if we hallucinate due to, I'm naming schizophrenia, but auditory and visual hallucinations and intrusive thoughts, all of that stuff, are obviously symptoms of a wide variety of disorders and illnesses. because Western media has told us that they will encourage us to harm people or to set fires or to generally negative things, we expect that, and therefore that's what Western sufferers of these disorders and illnesses are more likely to experience. In other cultures, they're more viewed as positive, friendly phenomena. So they don't. Again, like, this is generalities. Exceptions exist, as with everything, but they're more likely to experience hallucinations in a more positive, friendly manner that don't encourage behavior that breaks social norms. And some of that, obviously, is just based on preconceived expectations. I don't know why I said exceptions. So please be careful. Do due diligence, do your research, and just don't try to avoid being tropey. I mean, obviously, it's easier said than done. I know that I've included tropes in my games by accident without realizing it, but always take a step back and critically think about sessions and stuff. The Western view is interesting because medieval sufferers used to either be touched by God or the devil. Exactly. And also, obviously, big thing to note before getting into the material of the show of the show. If you do use dangerous tropes, because you haven't done the research, or you've done the research, but as is all too often the case, in the moment you kind of end up remembering just one key piece of information in the research, and that becomes the truth for the character. If someone calls you out on it, please don't double down. I know, certainly for me, the first instinct is to get defensive. Like, I did the research, I looked into it, I'm being respectful. How dare you criticize me? People know what they're talking about usually, and if someone is saying that you're being harmful, please do step back and analyze yourself critically, or as critically as possible. Ask for feedback on how you're being harmful. Ask how you can be less harmful. The way to think about it, and this applies to anything really, like racism, for example, is a big one. The way I always try to think about it to avoid that defensiveness is, don't say you aren't, a racist. Don't say you aren't being prejudiced against people with mental health disorders and illnesses. Say you don't want to be a racist. You don't want to be prejudiced against people with mental health. You don't want to be offensive and harmful, and that definitely gets over that hurdle of people challenging your pre-held self-belief and conceptions. A minor in psych, the son of a psychiatrist, has several mental disabilities, play Malkavian. It's a fine line to all portray mental illness as a stumbling block and not a trope. Yes, exactly. And I when I play vampire, I often play Malkavians as well. And I definitely end up playing characters that have mental health problems of a wide variety of sorts, but always try to do it as, this is something that I live with on a daily basis. Please don't make fun of it and gamify it. Malkies represent, heck yeah. All right, I'm going to hydrate and then we're going to get started. So I mentioned this last time, and I mentioned it the time before, because as I say, this is the third stream on this section of the project. The things that I am writing here will not include direct reference to specific mental disorders, illnesses, disabilities, etc. They may include things that are symptoms, but I'm trying not to name symptoms as well, because I believe that may lead people to do the whole, hey, this is a symptom I have, therefore this is the illness I have, or my character, I should say. So, in terms of scene mechanics, we have inconsequential beings being nihilism, essentially. Could be read as nihilism, could be read as depression. But I'm not naming it in the text. Just critical engagement with the text could lead you to form that conclusion. Squamous horror being more a the dangers of dealing with creatures from beyond the borders of reality, let's say, and repression, specifically with resilience. And then, as with body horror, the skill tricks, the edges, and the gifts. One is going to be a more active engagement with the genre, and one is more of a passive engagement with the genre. More of a hey, it's just kind of happening around me. Just go check. Yep, that's why that is doing that. As ever, if you are doing your own community content, cannot stress enough the importance of proper formatting. If you assign your headings before you do anything, or when you get to it, you'll save yourself a lot of time in the long run. You'll save yourself a lot of headaches, and you can just quickly flick through the document at will, because you know where each section is. I'm going to momentarily lose the chat as I check something. What is this? Cool. By which I mean I'm just going to the gifts chapter in TC Core and looking at pre-existing examples of gifts so I can design my own. Although there is an entire section in TC Core about how to design your own gift. Gifts are either luck or ability based. For the purposes of this, I'm going to use ability based gifts. But I will just quote from the rulebook. While designing your own gifts, it's important to remember that gifts save time and affect the drama of the game, and do not simply improve a character's ability to do something. If your idea better fits the latter, you might consider writing it as a skill trick instead. So as you can see up here, these gifts are for body horror, for example. I don't know why I pronounced it that way. Bone Weapons is a stamina gift, requires stamina 3 because you generate weapons of bone. That's very body horror. And then Horrific Mean is just doubling down on something that's been done to you. So I'm probably going to continue with the See Beyond aspect for held reason bullying. Hang on, I will hijack. I'm going to allow that for now. Yeah, no, that's terrible storytelling. STing. That's a red flag right there. Like, it's your character's disorder. It presents the way that you present it. Sorry, that's completely thrown me off. Right, back to the game. Back to what I was talking about. Gifts, yes. So we're going to continue with the See Beyond aspect. I need to assign a skill for this. I think it'd be Enigmas. Apologies for the no. As I said at the start, the community content, the writing bit is just to provide a backdrop. It's something for me to do when there's no other discussion happening. Please do not apologize for this distraction. This is very much a community focused show. I don't mind how long this project takes to finish. I will finish it eventually. This is time set aside for the writing of said projects. I don't work on them off stream. If you want to buy this project and you're distracting me, then that's on you. That you're making the project take longer to write. But never apologize for contributing to the discussion. Anyway, back to what I was doing. So that'd be Enigmas hyphen Pierce the Veil. And that will be heading 3. You know what? I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. That should be Enigmas prerequisite. Enigmas 3. 3 is a significant investment. I'll make it 2. Let's make it 2. I think momentary is an applicable keyword here. Because constant is always on, whereas momentary is situational. Yeah, I don't think this will be a constant thing. I think this is going to be a conscious engagement with the cosmic horror. Yeah, so let's see this momentary. I think Enigmas 2 is fine. Flux is the energy, multiversal energy that the talents can use to power their abilities. So the flux that suffuses you allows you to glimpse into other... That's nice about universes. Universes and see the truth of everything around you, of things around you. Apologies that my microphone picks up my typing sound, picks up my keystrokes. That's why I try to talk while I'm talking. Try to talk while I'm typing to cover up the keystrokes. I'm hoping to find copyright-free music. I just keep meaning to talk to Onyx Path people about it, see if they recommend any to put in the background to cover up the keystroke sound. The flux that suffuses you allows you to glimpse into other universes and the truth of things around you. System, spend an inspiration. To peel back the mysteries of the world. For the duration of the scene, you gain a bonus to all. I was going to specify integrity cunning because integrity plus cunning is the usual kind of perception-based roll. Let's say all rolls to discover hidden information. I need to make sure that this isn't... It's going to be very similar to See Beyond, but not exactly the same. That's a research thing. To discover hidden information, objects or creatures, as well as to all roles related to it's a great portal with a bunch of royalty-free music on Newgrounds, so a flash on my site. Could I post a link to it for you? I'll remember it. I have a Newgrounds account anyway. I'll look into it. Thank you, Rajak. It's mostly just checking with Onyx Path like what they are and aren't happy with me playing in the background. Obviously, it'll be royalty-free music, but I don't know if they have any preferred sources. But thank you. I'll make a note of it on the index card. I always have an index card to hand for note purposes when streaming. So you might hear some pencil ASMR. Apologies. But thank you for the tip. As well as to all rules related to seeing, let's say, identifying illusions and other let's say supernatural falsehoods. Newgrounds.com/audio. Thank you very much. That's not how you spell false. That's how you spell flash. Got Newgrounds on the mind now. I've made a note of the link. Equal to your reflective or intuitive facet. For the duration of this gift, just trying to think. It's resolve. Right? Resolve is an attribute in this. Yes, so many attributes, so many games. Where's the core book? There it is. Yes, resolve. For the duration of this gift, you gain a penalty. Say your resistance rolls. Nope. Any roll incorporating resilience, I think it actually is. No, wait, maybe. Oh, hang. Where's the character sheet? Please. PDF, why you like this? Oh, now the PDF's not loading. Wonderful. No, it is resilience. Okay, cool. Incorporating the resilience approach. No, I'll say a resilience attribute because that will include defense and stuff. Incorporating a resilience attribute. Suffers a penalty equal to this bonus. As the truths you uncover flood your mind. Ooh, spooky. So mechanically, this is the active engagement with the genre. The talent is using their ability to utilize flux to peer through the worlds and see the truth of the scene, essentially. So, say the creature in front of you is masquerading as a normal human being, but is in fact a brain in a jar, for example. This grants you a bonus to see that, to actually see the truth of it, but also because you are opening yourself up to the horrors of the world and the worlds around you, kind of taking on too much information, and you're thrown off balance in terms of reactions and maintaining your composure and things like that. I also don't mean bonus, I mean enhancement. And I don't mean penalty, I mean complication. Equal to this enhancement. If you cannot, or I will say if you do not buy off this enhancement, you gain the... Just reminds you of Cult to Pierce the Illusion. Otter Poet, 1, fantastic username. 2, I've never actually played Cult. All of the stories I've heard of Cult from people who have played it kind of just put me off, I'll be honest. But if it's reminiscent of that, I apologize. I'm not directly copying, I promise. That says but. If you don't buy off this enhancement, you gain the shaken condition. Now, it would be very easy just to say this replaces a bruise condition and treat it as an injury condition to represent like psychic and spiritual and emotional trauma. But I don't really want to do that until the end of the scene. Let's say until the end of the next scene. What are the effects of this? So, easiest way of modeling emotional, psychological distress would be complication, increased difficulty. I've already dealt with complication. Increased difficulty is kind of vanilla, in a way. It is the simplest way of handling it, but I don't think it really handles it the way I want to. I might tie it back into the facet system. So, for those who don't know, talents, again, the more supernatural of TC Core's character options, have facets, destructive, intuitive, and reflective. And they are used to key off of... gifts key off of those facets. They work like anything else. They have a dot limit. They have a dot rating, sorry. And you gain an extra point of additional maximum inspiration at certain facet thresholds, and it's all cumulative. The 3 facets are destructive, intuitive, and reflective, and they tie into the force, finesse, and resilience approaches for attributes. So I could tie this back to the facet. I could have it as the facet is temporarily reduced by 1. Which I might do. That would alter derived things like the maximum inspiration, but you could just include a rider saying this does not affect derived game effects. Or like, this does not affect your maximum inspiration. I might go with that, actually. Or you cannot apply skill tricks. Because they're ways that your character has learned to use the skill in a way that another character can't necessarily do. Which would imply some level of conscious thought when doing the thing. No, I like this. This is a good idea. Well done, me. Makes sense. The Veil and Hidden Worlds are a common trope in mythology and theology. Most definitely. And this, as I'm dealing with cosmic horror, obviously that's things hide behind shadow and illusion. Or can hide behind shadow and illusion. Or the... I mean, I'm just using Veil here as in the symbolic sense of falsehood more than anything. But, you know, with... the denizens of Innsmouth pretending to be normal people when clearly they're Deep One hybrids. That kind of illusion, that level of falsehood, just see through it. Whilst you have this condition, you may not use your skill tricks. What I could do is expand this to include specialties. So, in TC Core, specialties are exactly what it sounds like. So, say you've got specialty handguns in aim, for example, because aim is your shooting skill. If you have a non-aim related role where knowing about handguns would help, you get 1 enhancement, for example. Let's not forget mystery cults have been very common and popular throughout history as well. Exactly. Which is where the idea of the veil comes from. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Mostly because I've always felt that engaging with cosmic horror, with entities of cosmic horror, with entities within the cosmic horror genre is always going to be a high risk, high reward gambit. You might use your skill tricks or apply any of your specialties. It's only for a maximum of 2 scenes. Till the end of the next scene, or your there we go. Just a bit of in-fiction duration as well, in case the next scene takes place weeks later. Once you have this condition, you may not use your skill tricks or apply any of your specialties. Boom! There's a gift. That was the only one I had an idea for, however. So we need a way of... Gifts, by their kind of definition, are very active things. Because you're usually spending inspiration to warp the world around you in a way that allows you to use the gift. So trying to do a passive thing with the gift... they do have always-on states, though. Constant is a key word for an always-on effect. Came in late, we speak in classic, Lovecraftian horror, more modern existential horror. Both, for the purposes of this. This is so this supplement, Horrors of the Continuum, is looking at how you can apply 5 different horror genres to games of Trinity Continuum. So this is just cosmic horror in its generality. Obviously, the genre has evolved and developed since Lovecraft, but it's just the generic cosmic horror genre. Just going to go back up to the themes it deals with. So what do I have? Inconsequential beings and squamous horror, both being the forbidden, dangerous knowledge. Experienced researcher and ancient research, both timed with the risks associated with scientific discovery. See beyond, fear-fueled responses. Again, that's more the cosmic dread, forbidden knowledge side of things. Pierce the veil, the same thing. Maybe the non-human influence on humanity. Oh, sorry. The microphone picked up that wind. Maybe something along the lines of Dreamer. You have dreams from, like, something beyond gives you dreams. Sorry, I'm just thinking things through. So the obvious thing here would be you get portentous dreams and gain enhancement to 1 roll of your choice the next day. It's obvious, very surface level. How can I make it more thematic? Still with the portentous dreams, the dreams physically change, or the dreams change you. You can move a skill dot, move an attribute dot. Trouble with doing things like that is it alters derived statistics. So probably not attribute dots, because you could kill yourself technically by doing that. If you were full, if your health conditions were all full and then you moved a stamina point. Not an attribute, maybe a skill dot. You can move a skill dot and skill specialty at the start of every in-game day. Dreams are visions. Dreams are something which obviously are associated with sleep, but visions may not be. That is true. Could combine both active and passive, actually. So passively, the start of every in-game day, you get that tweak. And I think, hang on, I need to check. I think are tweaks in Continuum anyway? I know they're in Scion where you can change skill dots around. Just checking. Please bear with me one moment. In addition to earning spending experience, players can tweak their characters each session. Tweaks are small cost-free changes to help a player customize a character to fit the story and style of play. Right, so you can... So as a tweak, you can shift one dot from one attribute to another attribute, or from one skill to another skill. Right, a new short-term aspiration as well. So I need, if I'm going to go down that route, and I like that idea, obviously we need to tie it in with something horrific. There's a side effect of doing this, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I think maybe you can move one skill dot to another skill, and gain a specialty in the skill you've swapped it for. Regardless of any normal prerequisite. Sorry. When I recently wrote on Cosmic Horror, one of the archetypes that kept popping up in literature was the Herald, an entity representing one of humanity's dread, so dreams definitely fall under that. Grand. I'm glad I'm not on the wrong path. So, yes. So I'm thinking... oh, gosh, now I have to... this would probably be an attribute thing, thinking about it. What attributes do we have? Cunning, possibly, or composure. Let's say composure. If we say composure 3, because at that point you're... Or resolve 3, because at that point you're mentally strong enough for this entity to reach out and bestow upon you these visions, let's say. Resolve. I'm just going to say visions from beyond. That's a heading. And then that should still be that. Keywords. That should say skill, not attribute. I'm an idiot. This will say resolve. This is not momentary though. This is, I think it's constant is the word. Yes, constant. Something from beyond the boundaries of reality shares fragments of its knowledge with you. Minimize that window so I can still see chat. As this is not requiring inspiration, as this is a constant, always on thing, it's not going to require inspiration. System. Your story guide may share... sorry. At their discretion, your story guide, being the GM of the story path system, the story guide, your story guide may share clues and hints about the about upcoming events. It is recommended they do this at least once per in-game day, likely through dreams. It's recommended they do this at least once per in-game day and through the medium of dreams, of confusing dreams, or waking visions. When your story guide does this, you may move one skill dot into a different skill. Until the next time this gift is, I guess, triggered by the story guide. At which point the skill dot turns to its original skill, and you may move another. You may move it or another skill dot. Let's put temporarily move it. To a different skill. Now I want to clarify it can be the same scale twice, but I don't know if that's just unnecessarily complicating matters. You know what? I'm just going to add that rider. This is all first draft material. It's going to likely change anyway. To the same or a different skill. You may also gain a single specialty in the skill you have temporarily. No, I can't spell. Temporarily increased by 1. And hydrate. So that's you know what? Let's make this resolve 2. Well, Resolve 3, you can easily start the game with Resolve 3. If they haven't already, check out Prince of Darkness, Save the Brotherhood of Sleep, an order of Catholic priests who get dreams from the cosmic entity they've captured. That's pretty cool. I'll check it out. Resolve 3, reasonably easy to start the game with, actually thinking about it. And the purpose of tweaks is to allow you to get your character sheet so that you're happy with it. Because obviously when you make a character, you don't know exactly how the character is going to end up working in practice, and you don't know what direction the game's going to go in. So the tweak is there more just to help you kind of make a character that feels useful at the table. Whereas this is a tweak, plus you get the specialty, plus you can do it at will rather than between sessions. I feel like we should have a trigger that you can do it at will as well, to gain an additional dot in the skill, like just a dot from nowhere in the skill that you've boosted, but then that does need a downside. Just going to check, because the obvious answer there is you take damage. Like you gain an injury condition. I'm just going to check healing rates. If I can find where healing times are. Bruised conditions go away in 2 days. Maimed, medical attention 3 weeks. Injured, 1 week of rest with proper medical attention. I think bruised, maybe? Let's talk this through. So you gain the bruised condition. Oh, you gain a bruised condition. Like brain fog, maybe. So it just makes mental arena tests harder. Haven't played Trinity in years. Use willpower. Maybe have +1 skill for each willpower spent. No, willpower's not in Trinity Continuum anymore. Hello, charismatic canine. Welcome to the stream. I mean, this is a gift, so it could be an inspiration-based mechanic. So you could spend inspiration to do it. And then that's the expendable resource. Inspiration doesn't come back that quickly. Inspiration is the willpower equivalent, I would say, for talents. But it doesn't. It's used for different things. Oh, hang on. I'm not doing too bad, charismatic canine. I'm just talking through some thought processes. How are you doing? So one of the options you have available to you through spending inspiration is a thing called dramatic editing. Dramatic editing is fantastic. It's a lot of fun. Where is it? There it is. With dramatic editing, you can do the following things. You can generate a plausible advantage within the scene, but doesn't strain the suspension of disbelief. You can retcon events that have already transpired. Casting them in a new light and revealing actions or preparations taken in a brief descriptive flashback. The dramatic editing cannot overrule facts that have been previously established, and the story guide can obviously say whether or not the editing happens. So as an example of dramatic editing, hey Plastic Age Plays, as an example of dramatic editing, in the Story Path showcase that Plastic Age Plays ran, that I took part in, I spent a point of inspiration. We were trying to break it. We were trying to steal a car. It wasn't going well, so I spent a point of inspiration to say that the keys were hidden in the sun flap, whatever it's called. Sun flap is not what it's called. I'm aware of that. The word has just gone completely. The thing above the seat that you flip down and blocks the sun from blinding you. That. And the keys were in there. And that's dramatic editing at its simplest. So we could do something with dramatic editing to bring the vision into reality. So what would that do for us, though? What would that do for a character if they've already got the benefit of the cryptic knowledge from the creature from beyond the realm of reality, but then events conspire and the player's like, you know what, this resembles the vision I've had, I'm going to do it. Enhancement's the easiest option. Could share the specialty, so for the duration of the scene, every member of the everyone present in the scene gains the benefit of that specialty. Then this is more active. I wanted the passive thing of, hey, you get visions. It's a cool idea, but I don't think it's for me right now with the idea I want to go with. But dramatic editing is really cool. Maybe Okay, so, oh, I'm all blurry. Cool. I moved too much and the webcam didn't know how to react. So what I'm thinking right now is that the character gets... I also apologize for how blotchy my skin is. I'm having a real problem with dry skin at the minute. So the character gets the visions from whatever it is beyond the boundary of reality, also known as the story guide. If it's cosmic entity, maybe it acts through the character to alter reality. Mechanically, it alters the scene as you mentioned. That is true. So what? You can spend an inspiration to allow the entity to act through you, arranging the scene to fit the vision. That could work. Be what? At that point, I'm more inclined to say you gain the bruised condition as well as having to spend inspiration on dramatic editing. Oh, well, at that point, because dramatic editing comes in tiers, right? So, single advantage, retroactive change costs 1 inspiration. Additional changes cost 2 inspiration. What if you just get free additional change? Yeah, let's do with that. Let's go with that. When you spend a point of inspiration to dramatically edit the scene, I'm going to capitalize it because it's capitalizing the text is a game term. You may allow the entity... It also gives the storyteller some hidden narrative. Why is entity allowing this? Does acting on our reality bring it close to crossing the veil? That's true. That's very true. You may allow the entity to act through you. If you do so, you gain the bruised condition. Brain fog. Brain fog as a symptom, I feel, is very vague and therefore not terribly tropey. It's just kind of distracted. And may create an... I would just use the wording from the book so that it's mechanically consistent. Additional change. An additional change, or extend the advantage into a new scene without spending the required inspiration. Let's specify may make a single additional change. Does that work? So you can make other changes beyond it, but that first extra change is free. Maybe the entity's just bored. That's a mood right there. I'm just thinking. So there is a third thing you can do. It costs 3 or more inspiration, but it's huge changes. Like, hey, that person never actually died, or that person was loyal to us all along. No doubt. Cthulhu, man, the seabed is bumming me out. Let's screw up someone's life. I can see it. Hang on. I'm just going to check something. Please do bear with me. I guess it'd be the story guide chapter? How do we feel? No. I think I'm good with this. I think adding anything else to it is stretching it a little bit. You've got the passive effect of the story guide, gives you hints and tips, and you can move the skills around and gain a free specialty. But you can also allow the entity to act through you to arrange things to suit their purposes, for a cost. I think we're all good. I like to be like, hey, let's summon cultists into the scene, but I think we're good. Again, summoning cultists is more to me an active engagement, because then you've got an ally in the scene that is nominally going to be listening to what you say and do what you tell them to do. So I think we're good with this. I'm going to hydrate again while I think things through. Yeah, I think we're good. I haven't assigned any way to mitigate the bruise condition, because to my mind, if you're allowing an unknowable entity to interfere in human matters through you as a conduit, that's going to take its toll on the body. I feel like the injured is a bit too much straight off the bat, but you do this a couple of times without resting between them, and you're injured anyway, so it makes no difference. I mean, if you wanted to, you could take yourself out by channeling unknowable entities from beyond the boundaries of reality, but until the entity determines it's time to test the PC and the cultists or antagonists. Well, I mean, if you're dealing with cosmic horror themes, you're probably going to be dealing with cultists anyway. And one of them could pose as an ally. It's kind of baked into the genre. I don't know why I highlighted all that text. Final note about writing your own community content for this stream, because I've noticed the time. Save often and regularly. At a higher level, you could effectively become a gateway. Yeah, I mean, so at base health, you have 1 bruised, 1 injured, 1 maimed, and taken out. So even without having additional health levels, you could do this 3 times before you actually kill yourself. Oh, well, not even kill yourself, but take yourself out of the scene. Technically, you could do this 4 times if you wanted to, per scene, if you had the inspiration for it. At which point, yes, you just become a gateway to the creature. Which in itself is cosmic horror through and through. So, doubling down on the theming there, really. So, swift recap of what we've done today before I do my usual outro. Because, as usual, I do like to finish talking about one thing in a stream. I don't like getting halfway through a section and then stopping. I can do it, I just prefer not to. And it's also 4:45 my time. So, 11:15 Eastern, I assume. So today we've discussed, as usual, I provided an overview of Trinity Continuum and how it works to provide a grounding for anyone who may not be familiar with it, with the mechanics I've been talking about here. I've obviously tried to explain the mechanics as I've gone along, and how the stuff I've been writing is intended to reflect certain things. And obviously, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. Something that I think Onyx Path are phenomenally good at is providing that guidance about how to tweak the game in certain ways to produce the genre and the feel and the narrative that you want to be telling. I wish more games did it, and as I say, I've always found Onyx Path phenomenal in that respect. 4:45 has such numeric and linguistic poetry. I'm glad. I generally go with 1/4, 1/2, and 1/4 rather than X15, X30, and X45. Also, reading aloud, that is a fantastic username. Mad props to you for that. This chat in general, today's stream has been great for usernames. Yeah, so we've had an active engagement in gifts with Piercing the Veil. It's tied to enigmas, but you can glimpse into other universes to see the truth of your universe. Gives you a bonus equal to reflective or intuitive facet. Sorry, gives you enhancement equal to reflective or intuitive facet to all rolls to discover hidden information, objects, or creatures, as well as to all rolls related to identifying illusions and other supernatural falsehoods for the scene. I put supernatural just to as a catch-all term. When this comes to the final product, I might change that. I don't quite yet know. But as we're talking about cosmic horror, I'm expecting supernatural stuff to be involved. However, for the duration of the gift, any role incorporating a resilience attribute suffers a complication equal to the enhancement, as the truths are just, they shake you to the core. If you don't buy for the enhancement, you gain a shaken condition, and that prevents you from using skill tricks or applying specialties to rolls, because you can't focus on what's in front of you because of what you've seen. This is what it is. Incidentally, for those who are unaware, I always provide a link to the playlist of these streams in the product when it's released. So if you ever do pick up any of my products and you're like, what does this link take? Why would I follow this link? That it's so you can hear about my thinking behind everything. I try to title things appropriately. It's not always terribly easy to do, but you should be able to roughly figure out where what you're interested in can be found. And then an attribute tied, a gift tied to an attribute in Resolve, where you get visions of the future from something outside of time and space. This is, I want to say, Boethian in thought. I think Boethius was the monk that was like, hey, God can know everything because God's outside of time and space. Philosopher, sorry, not monk. I think that was him. Anyway, that's the idea being that the entity is so far outside of reality, for it, reality exists all at the same time. So it gives you these visions, and that allows you to change one skill dot, to temporarily move one skill dot into another skill until the gift is triggered again, at which point it resets. And you also gain a single specialty in the skill. Temporarily increased by 1 until the gift is triggered again. There you go. Gain a specialty that might help based on what your interpretation of the vision is. And then if you wish to further engage with that, you can spend a point as inspiration. When dramatically editing scenes, you may allow the entity to act through you in order to bring the vision to life, to fruition. In order to manifest the vision. Make the vision manifest. I'll put manifest the vision. I know what I mean. I'm sure chat will provide a better wording for me. If you do so, you gain the bruise condition, which is an injury condition because there is a strain on the body, and you may make a single additional change or extend the advantage into a new scene without spending the required inspiration. Inspiration being the expendable resource that talents gain access to. Now, while chat does my work for me, before I go through the Monday meeting note, outro summary, and all of that stuff, I've mentioned playlists. I've mentioned YouTube a couple of times. Video on demand. Let's address that. So, if you came in halfway through the stream and want to catch the beginning of the stream, more for you. If you want to watch it immediately, you do need to subscribe to the Onyx Path Twitch channel. You'll also gain access to subscriber emotes and a channel on the Onyx Path Discord server. But if you're not a subscriber, and you can also use your Prime Gaming subscription if you have one of those, you gain all of the same benefits as a normal subscription, normal tier 1 subscription. If you are not subscribed to the Onyx Path channel, you cannot. Or you cannot, or do not want to subscribe to it. If you wait a week, this video will be viewable until it is deleted by Twitch, which I think is probably 60 days. Depends on how Honest Path have set it up. It's between a month and 2 months. At which point, the only way to watch it will be on my YouTube channel, where I will, in theory, upload this next Tuesday. I say in theory because I uploaded 2 streams ago earlier. I'm far behind relatively speaking. I've just been too busy. To my YouTube channel, you'll have to go to YouTube, you'll have to type in Comrade Bubbles, and then, as I say, it's behind the scene. All of the previous seasons of the show are there too, or series of the show are there too, looking at Chronicles of Darkness, looking at Scion, looking at Scarred Lands, for more kind of, hopefully, thought-provoking commentary on community content writing. Maybe useful, maybe not, I don't know. All I know is that I like to talk when I write stuff because it helps me think things through, and having the chat to provide feedback helps immeasurably. So that's all that. I do this show fortnightly or bi-weekly if you prefer. So not next week, but the week after, in theory, is the next show. We will be discussing we'll be beginning to discuss certainly disaster horror. And how you can model that at your games. That's that. Socials generally come after the outro. So the outro, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream. Oh, I saw something happen. Feedback's great. Make sure the editorial process. Oh yeah, I edit solo. Don't worry. As a game designer, it's been quite informative. Thank you for sharing the process. No worries, Otterpoet. I'm here every 2 weeks-ish at 9 a.m. Eastern until anyone on Onyx Path tells me to leave, at which point I'll be sad, but I'll have to leave. However, the Monday meeting notes outro, very swift overview. The Lore of the Traditions Kickstarter continues to be a resounding success. There's the link to it. If you have any interest in Mage 20, I highly recommend checking it out. By this point, most of the backup previews are out, I'd suspect, with 50-ish hours left, 51 hours left. But that's a supplement for Mage the Awakening? I'm going to get this right one day, I swear. 20th anniversary Mage, whichever one. Mage the Ascension. It's Ascension, you fool. I'm going to have to mnemonic my way to remembering that because it's embarrassing every time. And considering existential horror is a thing, it's been a treat. I'm glad. Existential horror is a fantastic genre. Anyway, so Lore of the Traditions continues to go strong. Check it out. Loads of media in the media section about it, unsurprisingly. Anecdote about the first Kickstarter campaign Onyx Path ran. Sweet, sweet art from Saints and Monsters. It is the 10th anniversary of Onyx Path this year. This week is focused on Wraith 20th and Changeling the Dreaming 20th anniversary edition PDFs, with the exception of Ghost Hunters, because that's not out for Kickstarter backers yet in terms of books, physical books. So those lines are 90% off, I would suspect, in most cases. Next week will be Mage itself. Sorry, just thinking of mnemonic possibilities to remember the two. Next week's the Mage itself, so if you're interested in Lore of the Traditions and back it, wait until next week, and then you'll get the PDF for ridiculously cheap, is what I'm trying to say. Behooves me to point out that, plans go ahead for Virtual Con and Onyx Path Virtual Con and Gen Con. In an hour and 5 minutes-ish, Eddie Webb and Danielle Lawson will be talking about Storypath in with far more expertise than I have been talking about it. If you're here for the mechanics side of things, I remember which will be easier. If Ascension and Awakening started with different letters, that's my problem. On Stabilos, they both have the same letter. And I was going to do like a thing like Ascension has C in it for Chronicles and Awakening has W in it for World of Darkness, but that's the wrong way round. I'll think of something. Next time, I'll have it down pat. But next time, I won't need to know it, and I'll forget for when I do need to know. Ascensioning. Yes, please reading aloud. Please hit me with those portmanteaus. Yes, just over an hour, Eddie Webb and Danielle Lawson will be here talking about Storypath with much more expertise than I could ever talk about it. The Twitch schedule will appear in the post roll, so if you're interested on other stuff on the channel, stick around for the post roll. Wednesday sees the release of The Longest Night, Ghost Hunters, World of Darkness Jumpstart, as well as the Trinity Continuum Aeon novella Dawn. That's both drive-through RPG for the novella and Amazon's Kindle version. You can still pre-order Trinity Continuum Assassins on drive-through. First draft Trinity Continuum Aberrant Hated and Feared. The writers seem excited with it, so that's cool. Looking at the outsiders like the Tarat from the Aberrant timeline, Aberrant game book, Aberrant supplement. There we go. There's so many game line supplements and things. As I said at the start, I think they're akin to the Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants. But I could be wrong. I've not read the Aberrant book in a while. Final drafts: Mage of the Awakening 2E, Tome of the Pentacle, a couple of tasty bits, jump starts. They came from Cyclops Cave and classified Kickstarter assets appear to be sorted. And I'm acquainted with certainly the developer for Cyclops Cave, and they seem pretty hyped for that, so get hyped when that comes out. Squeaks in the Deep, Saints of the Monsters, and TC Assassins are all in proofing. So if you do want to pre-order Assassins, do so now before it comes out of proofing and it reaches at press. Speaking of at press, there's a lot of things at press. Yes, you also awaken in Ascension. I know, that's my confusion. Magneto is right. Excellent. Well, I mean, that's a controversial stance there, Plastic Age Plays, but Magneto might have been right. Anyway, I've been Ryan/Comrade Bubbles. You can follow me if you want to. You don't have to. On Twitter, as surprisingly at Comrade Bubbles. I do also stream on Twitch. Same name, Comrade Bubbles. I don't typically stream tabletop RPG stuff, but I'm always happy to talk about tabletop RPG stuff. So if you do want to continue conversations we've started here, please do feel free to follow me on Twitter. Please do feel free to follow me on Twitch. I do mostly video game commentary stuff. I play video games and hang out with chat and regale you with anecdotes where appropriate and things like that, if that's to your satisfaction. Apparently people like it, so I'm going to keep doing it, much like I'm going to keep doing the show until people say otherwise. That's it for me. So just remember, the Ascension is tied up with the end of the world, like Gehenna, whereas Awakening does not. Yes, because the world isn't ending in the Chronicles. Yeah, so hopefully I'll see some or all of you in 2 weeks' time. Until then, if you are interested in what's coming up on the channel, please do stick around for the post roll. I'll be in chat for a few minutes anyway, just in case of lingering questions. But as is my traditional sign-off, please do pet your pets, tell them they're good pets, tell them I love them because I love all animals. Side note, the local zoo had a baby aardvark recently. It was the first one born in the zoo, and it is freaking adorable. But from me to and your loved ones, please do stay safe, please do stay healthy, please do stay wholesome, please do remember, despite what the UK media, if you're in the UK, is telling you, COVID is still very much a thing. Please do get vaccinated, please do take precautions. As a vulnerable person, I thank each and every one of you who is vaccinated and does, only go out when necessary, does wear a mask when they go out, all of that stuff. I haven't left the house in over 2 years for any extended period of time. And, it's wearing, but only when we all work together can we get through this safely. And some people in positions of power appear to have forgotten that. Not going to say who. Just going to leave it at that. But I'm sure you're all great people. I'm sure you're all taking the correct precautions. And hopefully I'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good one. Stick around for the post roll. COVID is over. We kicked out with Brexit. Oh my God. No. Wait, yes. Does this mean we can blame the Ramonas, of which I am one? Anyway. I'll see you all around. Thank you for being a fantastic audience. Be safe out there. And see you next time. Hopefully, maybe.